It is 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is the monthly meeting for the Reve Human Rights Commission. We'll begin by taking attendance. So when I call your name, please either wave your hand or unmute yourself and let me know you're here. Lynn Alexis.
Here.
Lynn is present. Reverend Bogertman.
Here.
Thank you. Chief Bright.
Present.
Thank you. Chief Callahan.
Present.
Thank you. Shalon Fowler. Shalon's waving, she's present. Dr. Garcia.
Present.
Thank you. Shema Hosseini.
Present.
Thank you. Is Rashid. I do not see Rashid here at the moment. At the moment, Rashid is not present, and I will update as needed. Karu Pish.
Present.
Thank you. Kathy Ann Reinstein.
Present.
Thank you. And I am Janine Grillo-Mara, chairperson, and I am present. If any of the commissioners would like to kindly add your pronouns, if you feel comfortable doing that, to help make those who would feel more safe and comfortable by seeing our pronouns, how we identify. You can go into your image to the upper right corner where the 3 dots are and click on rename. You don't have to erase your name, you just have to add at the end of your name whatever pronouns you use. I am seeing, Ruben, are you monitoring the chat? I'm not sure if that's Rashid that's in the chat.
No, I don't think so.
Do you see what we're seeing? Oh, it is Rashid.
Got it.
So maybe you can allow him to enter and then we'll get started.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
No
Sorry,
problem.
I had some trouble joining the Zoom.
That's okay. I am just going to rename you.
I got it.
Okay, so let the record reflect that Rashid Mukaber is here. Thank you. Okay. And we'll begin in our usual way to just take some moments to arrive and settle. So maybe shift the body a bit. And just respect what's comfortable for you if you'd like your eyes closed or open. And if you'd like, you could take some slow, deep breaths, as though you could breathe with your whole body. Imagining you could breathe through every pore of your skin, every cell of your being. And just feel the way that you're sitting, the weight of your body, the contact to the seat. And feel the way that you're breathing. There's nothing to control, nothing to reject. Just sitting, just breathing, just being. Just take a moment to reflect on why it's important for you to serve on this commission, why you're drawn to do this important work. And if your eyes are closed, you can open them while keeping your eyes soft, your jaw soft. And Ruben, if you could screen share our mission statement, I'll call on Lynn Alexis to read it. Lynn, if you don't mind today, and we'll rotate.
I'd love to. The mission statement of Reve Human Rights Commission is to protect human and civil rights and empower all people of Reve by ensuring that everyone, especially the most vulnerable and marginalized, have equitable opportunities, equal access, and are treated with dignity, respect, fairness, and justice, as approved by the Commission members on January 7th, 2021.
Thank you, Lynn. We'll begin by reviewing the minutes from the February 4th monthly meeting. These were distributed to you with the agenda. Now is the time if you feel that something needs to be edited or changed, or for one of the members to make a motion to approve these minutes.
Motion to approve February 4th, 2021 meeting minutes.
So Lynn Alexis makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Jalon. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, let the record show all in favor. Next is the need for a minute taker at these monthly meetings. Shay had been doing it, and she will be getting involved in other activities with the HRC and heading up some other task forces and needs. And so I would like someone from the commission to volunteer to take the minutes. It's only to take the minutes. The executive director, when we have an executive director, would be doing other administrative tasks like holding, storing documents, creating the agenda. I'm doing that right now as the chairperson. So it would only be to take the minutes for these monthly meetings, which you would then submit to me, and I'd be able to review them and give input. So is anyone willing to step up and volunteer for that?
Madam Chair, I'm glad to continue taking the notes. I'm actually taking the minutes down right now, but for the meantime, I could be taking the notes, and if anyone wants to volunteer in the near future, just let me know and we could have that discussion.
Okay. So thank you, Shay. How we've been doing it thus far is, Shay has been submitting to me the what she has reflected in the minutes, whether it's through a dictaphone or some other means, and then I am going over, reviewing them and editing them. And where I'm right now doing quite a bit as the chairperson, I'd like the minutes to be closer to a final form by the time they come to me. And so that's why I'm hoping that Shay and I could get a little bit of help here. But if no one is willing, we can continue to proceed as we are, and then I'll have to give some thought to if I'll need to appoint someone for this position.
I guess it's awkward silence across the board for everyone. And so let me just start out. I think we thought, I'll speak for myself, I thought that was going to be one of the main responsibilities that we were assigning for the vice chair, was to do that. Is that an incorrect assumption on my part? Not that we all can't help out, but that was what what I'm just wondering.
That was what we had decided a couple of months ago, or a few months ago, and I am now sort of reassessing other areas Shay will get involved with, as well as how much time I'm spending working on the minutes before they come to you. And I don't type, so that's a whole other issue, is that I'm a, whatever you call it, a pecker. I don't type, so it's just not even so easy for me to type up thoughts.
I mean, I guess if we have to rotate it or something, that might make it equitable. If it's too much of a burden for one person, is my thought.
Ruben, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So I know that we had discussed keeping it within the commission to have someone take minutes. Would it be a consideration that, would there be someone, an intern or someone that might be able to step in or to help out?
Possibly. Let me, there might be someone from an intern who works in the city in some office who would be available for this. So I can look into that.
So maybe you can, look into that. The rest of the commission could give some thought to maybe stepping up, because even though Shay is willing to do it, she and I are still doing quite a bit in between these meetings, because we don't have an executive director. So that's why I was hoping that somebody else might be willing to do it, even if it's in lieu of serving on other subcommittees or taking on other roles. So last call, if anyone would like to step up before we decide that we'll continue with Shay doing it for now. Okay, so we will continue for this month with Shay doing it, and we'll look into other options. And I asked that the commission members also consider that this could be a very valuable and helpful role that you could fill for us. I wanted to give you an update on the executive director job posting. I'm going to share my screen. At the last meeting, we reviewed the job description, which was very positively received. There were a few small recommendations, which I want to share with you, that they were incorporated. And so this is the edited job description. I only highlighted it for the purposes of this meeting. The Reverend had recommended that in this bullet, we add faith-based organizations, which we did. Jalon had recommended some kind of bullet be added about engaging the community, which is right here. And Lynn Alexis had mentioned that we add under the qualifications for degree that it's it had come up that a couple of you had mentioned not to limit it to just humanities and political science, but to maybe add other functions that would support the HRC. Before I go over the green highlight, everyone wanted the HRC to be able to have the ability to recommend that someone get training if we didn't feel that they had enough training, or to continue with future training. And then after meeting with the mayor, we went back and forth quite a bit about whether or not a bachelor's degree should be required. And he wants it to read bachelor's degree preferred, JD or master's highly desirable. And then we have this bullet here where we can recommend training as needed. So that job description, based on your recommendations in my meeting with the mayor, got posted. That job description got posted, I think yesterday. So the deadline is April 1st. And as we get closer to that date and we begin setting up interviews, I will inform all of the commission members when the mayor and I set up interviews. And if any of you are available and interested and want to be part of the interview process, you'd be welcome to join in. You could come to whichever ones fit your schedule. So there might be some of us there on certain ones and others there in other interviews. And so that's the status of the executive director job. Hopefully we get some great candidates, and we'll be interviewing sometime fairly soon. So does anyone have any questions or comments on that?
Madam Chair, so the April 1st deadline, that's for any recommendations that we give to you?
The job posting, I'll just share my screen once more. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. So at the end of the job description, this is posted by the city. So this is in the city's format. And at the end of the job description, it says interested candidates should apply by email. John Varela is the HRC director by Thursday, April 1st. With a resume. So an application and a resume will go to HR by April 1st. I will check in with John Varela as the month of March goes along to get a sense of how many candidates we have and how we might need to consider setting up the interviews. Yes, Ruben?
I'll let everyone know.
Excuse me, Ruben. Shay, did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Ruben?
So anyone can go to www.revere.org/jobs, and the posting is up there on the website on the Human Resources Department webpage. Let you know that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? None noted. The next pending topic update.
Actually,
yes.
I have a question, just a clarifying question. What's the makeup of the interview committee? Do we know that?
My understanding from when I met with the mayor is that it's the mayor and I will be at the interviews, and then any other commissioners that are able to join are invited.
Okay,
Before we get to that point, I'll confirm with the mayor. There might be somebody else that he wants to have there, but when we had spoke about it a month or so ago, he and I would be there, and then the invitation would go out to the entire commission. So if we said we're going to interview people Tuesday from 2 to 4 or whatever it might be, whoever would be available could join.
Thank you.
Okay. The next pending topic update, we had discussed some anti-racism and anti-oppression training for just the group of 11 commissioners. And at the last meeting, everyone agreed that it would be a good idea. We were targeting a day-long type of training to help us deepen our bond together and create some foundation for the work that we'll do. I had worked with an organization in the past and reached out to them because they could customize it for us rather than us joining with 100 other people in an online event. And so since the last meeting, I don't know if you recall, Dr. Garcia at Carew had offered to reach out to their contacts to help us with some funding. And Mr. Cantor, Reuben Cantor, also offered to see if he could secure some funding within the city, which looks very positive. That was for a day-long event. I invited those three, Reuben, Dr. Garcia, and Carew, to meet with the co-founder of the Courage of Care Coalition. That is the organization that could customize a training for us. Brooke Laval is the co-founder, and she heard about our organization and asked us what we were looking for. We discussed different options. Basically, their group recommends a 2-day training. It's actually some preparatory work, a survey and other kinds of assessments, then a 2-day training and possibly some follow-up work. This ends up costing more than we thought. So instead of it being maybe $4,000, it's looking more like $9,000. It's 2 days instead of 1 day, in addition to some pre and post work. She then, just a half hour before the meeting started, I got some information on a new program they're running, which is called Equity Leadership. And it's a program specific for community leaders. And I very briefly glanced at it, and it's still quite involved. It still costs, I thought it would cost a lot less, but it doesn't. It only costs a little bit less, and it still involves quite a bit of time. So while we're still gathering some information, the main thing I wanted to determine from this group is, how do people feel about a 2-day training? Should we revisit this organization, but do something that is only for us to bond as a group? So it would be shorter. It would not necessarily get into systemic racism. It would be more for us to get to know each other and work together and bond together, but it wouldn't be as long or as in-depth of a training. So I want to get a sense from each of you how you feel about a 2-day training, if we could even secure the funds for it, or would you rather do something that isn't as involved, that is more for us to deepen our connection? So I'll just, Shay, I see that your hand is up, so why don't you speak? Otherwise, I'll go around the group and hear from each of you.
Oh, sorry, just for like the sake of the minutes, can you just repeat what the name of the program that you're talking about, like the 2-day training one?
I'll send that to you, Shay, after, okay?
Right, thank you.
I actually could, if you'd like, I'll share my screen and show you. So this is a custom proposal. So phase 1 is a survey, conversations and synthesis, $200 per hour per facilitator, estimate 5 hours. So that's, you know, depending on how many facilitators, at least $1,000, $1,000 to $2,000. Phase 2 is a tailored 2-day team training, 2,000 per day per facilitator, and they recommend 2 facilitators. And this includes all the materials and up to 2 one-hour pre-session design consultations with the planning team. Phase 3 is optional. This would be after the program. They recommend some follow-up and we would have access. That seems optional. These are the facilitators that they're recommending. And I can send this to you after the meeting, but this gentleman, Ed Porter, and this is Brooke Lavelle, is the co-founder. Like I said, I just got some of this more up-to-date information within a half hour of the meeting, so I could not send it out. Right now, I just want to have a general sense of your thoughts of a 2-day training, something that's more involved, that involves a little bit of survey and assessment, 2-day training, maybe some follow-up, as opposed to something that is really just more for us to deepen our bond that may not take as long or may not cost as much. And again, I'm assuming that we'd be able to get the cost cover, which we may not be able to with what they're offering and suggesting. So I'm going to go around as I see you on my screen. If you feel like you want to share, please do. Karu.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I greatly appreciate the information that you just shared and the conversation we had with Brooke. For me, I personally think that if we want to really promote long-term sustainability and working together, I feel like we should have a comprehensive training. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karu. Shay, would you like to go now or would you rather go at the end?
I could go at the end.
Okay. Chief Bright?
Well, it seems that the money is the big unknown here, but I agree with Karu on this. I think training is very important, and so I'm open to maximize the training we can get.
Okay. Thank you. Jalon?
I too agree. Training is important. I support it. Yeah, money. That's the issue. I appreciate that, but I do support it.
Thank you. Dr. Garcia?
I support a full comprehensive training. In other words, a comprehensive training. This is, the stake is too high, and time is critical, and we cannot go halfway. We have to go all the way.
Thank you. Reverend Bogertman?
Yes, I agree. I think the training would help a lot. I think that's what we need to do to help us move forward. Finances is a question, if we can afford it. Obviously, if we can't, and then considering from there where we're at, once we know what we can afford, would help us reevaluate at that point. But I think that's important. As everyone said so well, we need to help get ourselves in a good place as we're moving forward as a group.
Thank you. Chief Callahan?
Yes, Madam Chairperson. I agree with everybody. The more training, the better, and it'll give us time to, to bond with one another and understand one another.
Okay. Thank you. Rashid?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for the research that you have done. You have done a great job. I support the training, and as much training we could get will be the better. I don't have any legal background, but probably I was brought to this commission because I've been active in the city. And that was one of my conditions, to get as much as training as we could to help out. And we are here to learn from each other, but also we welcome outside resources to help us get to the level where our citizens would like to see us.
Thank you. Kathy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with everyone. I think training and a better comfort level amongst all of us is paramount. And, you know, in my own opinion, for myself, I always feel like there's room for improvement, more knowledge, and a better understanding of others. So I think it's great. And thank you for the work you've done on this.
Thank you. Lynn?
Thank you. I don't know that I understood the fullness of how long the training is going to take. So,
and I apologize that what I just shared with you, I received from Brooke maybe a week after we had our small meeting to discuss some options and to see if this might be a fit. She mentioned at that point, they were creating this new equity leadership program, and that might be a better fit for us. It might be a bit more cost effective. And so I was waiting to get that so that we had all the information to compare. That information I literally got a half an hour before the meeting started. I didn't even have a chance to really look at it. Just at glancing it, that one looks almost as involved. So the proposal, the screen I just shared would be a preparatory survey and assessment of the group, a 2-day training with those 2 facilitators. There may or may not be some follow-up depending on what we decide. From what I could tell from this new equity leadership program, it looks like it's quite involved. It looks like it is still a 2-day training, and it looks like it involves 4 Thursdays in July, as well as some pre and post work. So at this point, I need to really get this information and send it out to all of you so you have a chance to review the specifics of it before our next meeting. I wanted to just check before I do that whether or not the commission was on board for a longer training, like a 2-day training, as opposed to a 1-day, because we only discussed a 1-day training last month. So does that help at all, Lynn? So right now you don't have all the information. I would of course send it to you so we could then discuss it further, but I only just got it a little while ago.
okay. Okay, so I agree with my fellow members that training is important. I guess it would depend on, what that training would look like as far as availability, but I'd love, and I think it's important that we do have training.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lynn. And I'm just glad to hear that people are all receptive to the training, because that's how I feel. And I feel that it's long-term and it's not something that we just do and check off and we're done. It's something that we'll have to repeat, maybe once a year or so, every so often, however we decide going forward. At this point, what I will do is try to summarize, send you all the important information so that you'll have it for further discussion at the next meeting. Okay. Okay. Thank you. At the last, let me see, I'm being told that the public is hearing. So that looks like it's for the, so Ruben is sending a message to the translators. We'll give them a moment to take care of that. Can I continue, Ruben, or do you need a little more time to?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Hopefully we'll work it out. Thank you.
Thank you. At the last meeting, we talked about the 311 request that had come through regarding the Reve Historical Museum. And we had tabled that topic until all the commissioners had a chance to go visit the museum, not to necessarily recommend we take everything down, but to simply ensure that the history of Revere is represented in a diverse way and an inclusive way. In our planning, I learned that the museum was closed due to COVID, and so I'm sorry if you had any inconvenience because of that. I followed up with Bob Upton, who is the director of the Revere History Museum, and he graciously invited myself and Vice Chair Shea to go visit the museum, which we did last week or so, and we met with Bob Upton, as well as Dr. Toby Perlstein. She is also a board member and is a fellow on the Special Libraries Association, and she's very involved in the materials that are at the museum and is very knowledgeable. And we all agreed in our discussions and touring all the floors of the museum, all four of us agreed that the museum could do a better job representing the history of Revere in a more diverse way, especially in recent decades. However, the museum is run by volunteers, and whatever gets donated to the museum is donated by people that just offer it. And so until they have more funding in a administrator in place that they're hoping to get, they've just been limited with updating the contents in the museum. So they're very, very excited and happy and receptive to work with the HRC so that we can help to make recommendations, or really, they're already open to recommendations. What they're looking for is how can we help get the word out to the different communities with people of different backgrounds and cultures so that they know that they can contact the museum and they can make recommendations or maybe offer certain items from their culture. So it's not a matter that the History Museum is not open to this. It's how do we get this to happen? And Shay had some ideas about how she could reach out to some of her communities. And I would say that any of the commission members are welcome to reach out to your communities. If you feel like you still want to go visit the museum and give your input, you can do so, and I can get you the contact information to communicate with Bob Upton. You don't have to go if you don't want to go, because we're all in agreement that we'd like to sort of bring the museum more up to date and have it be more culturally diverse. But I want you to know that you are still welcome. And if you have any ideas of how we can get the word out for people to volunteer at the museum when it's open, for people to offer different artifacts that they might have, different historical items, so that we can make it more culturally diverse. Shay, would you like to add anything since you were there with me?
I think for the most part, you summarized everything well. A lot of I personally think a good idea that I proposed to both Bob and Dr. Toby was that, like, Revere High always has like haunted hallways. Well, obviously this was pre-COVID, but this is like for the future. How they have haunted hallways and each particular room has like it's like a theme, and I'm like, why can't they do the same thing for the Revere Historical Museum so that they can get more youth involved? And since they already do it at RHS, and since it's so successful, they could probably even do it at the Revere Historical Museum. And it kind of looks like a haunted house, like on the inside, so it's like things you could work with. So
thank you, Shay. Yeah, they're so willing to update, to be more inclusive, to welcome ideas. So we're looking forward to collaborating with them. Lynn, I see you raised your hand. If anyone else, I won't go around to everyone, but if anyone wants to speak, please raise your hand. So Lynn, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. I was thinking of an idea since the HRC, these meetings are a platform. So maybe just inviting the public to, donate to the museum, just as we said. That's a good way to do it. Or maybe putting a notice on our website for residents to, submit donations. I'm not sure if that's something that the museum can take. I'm sure it is if they're already run by volunteers. And another idea that came to mind was maybe putting a notice at the City Hall, maybe saying, donations are welcomed via the Human Rights Commission, so that they know that this is also a function that we're not promoting, but I think being inclusive in the human rights is sort of a function that we do, and that we're kind of, taking ownership of, to say, hey, if there's a lack thereof, we should ensure that this is filled. So, yeah.
Okay, so I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Using our forum, the monthly meeting, our webpage, the ways that we can help get the word out through the HRC sort of channels in the city. So it's not just through their webpage and channels. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And of course, they do have a process how they accept items. I don't want to make it sound like anyone can just go there and bring things and it's accepted, but they are very receptive. They're very interested, very positive about this, very on board.
Right, and it doesn't have to be on our webpage permanently. What I'm thinking of, maybe, like a monthly thing. This month, our attention is going to the museum, and then, have a link that directs the public to their, I'm not sure how much traction or viewers that we get on a monthly basis, but I do know that this is a platform that could be helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Karu, I think you were next.
I have to see the museum I'm gonna visit before I can really asking for any donation. And then I'm also thinking about what activity that museum can also do throughout the year that really representing each history and in community. And that can be published through Reve TV or others, so that people can come and visit the museum.
Yes, Karu, actually, thank you for reminding me. I'm reluctant to speak on their behalf, but I believe they're starting a new storytelling series, and it speaks to what you're talking about. And again, they're very open to having different speakers come on different topics. So I will make a note, and I'll check to see who else may want to visit so I can follow up with you. Rashid?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To be honest with you, to give you like the best judgment about this matter, we have to visit the museum. I was planning to do so until I received that email that the museum is closed. But I can speak of Bob Apton. He's a great friend. I've known him for quite a few years. He's a fair person and inclusive person. He's always welcoming new ideas. But what I can say about this topic is people from underserved communities or that they feel marginalized or discriminated against, they have to step up. They have to step up to voice their opinions, to make their culture known better. They can give you an example of myself. I felt that my community is underserved one day, and they did I did establish the Moroccan Cultural Day in Shirley Ave that's been organized every year. I had worked with the City Hall Mayor Arrigo has been a great support. Chef Callahan, he is with us in here. Chef Bright has been always a great support. So we have to do our parts, like if we feel that we are underserved, we have to voice our opinions. And we are here to make sure that everyone is being heard. And again, I'm sorry, people, they have to do their parts. I've seen Jalon Flower, we worked in different events around the city. Shai, Dr. Garcia, these people are volunteering, to help out their communities. And if anyone is being unheard, they have to do their parts. So
thank you, Rashid.
we can't expect and blame somebody else for not promoting our heritage.
Yes.
It's our responsibility. So we have to acknowledge that.
Thank you so much, Rashid. And they would love to have volunteers working there that are people of color. But as you said, people need to volunteer. So, Jalon?
Thank you. My comment is just in support of needing to see what's there to best encourage people to contribute. And I know there's a challenge with COVID, but even if the staff there could just walk through the halls with the camera and, share with us that way, that's just an easy option. Or if there's a catalog of what's there, it just would help understanding what's there and what's potentially needs to be filled in. Or I don't know, I'm just dreaming up things in my head as we talk. So I think that would be really, really helpful to make us advocates, to make it inclusive if need be.
So I guess the question now is, so I can determine whether there's just a few of you that I can refer to communicate with Bob Upton to schedule a visit, or if there's a number of you and he may try to accommodate you, and a few of you go one day in time, a few of you go another day in time, so he's not having 9 different people go at 9 different times. How many people other than Karu, Rashid, and Jalon feel like they want to go to the museum? I see Kathy. All right, wait a minute. So Kathy, Dr. The 2 chiefs, and Dr. Goss. So basically, and Reverend. So basically everybody. Okay. All right. So if that's the case, then let me check with Bob to find out, maybe he can just throw out some 2 or 3 days and times, and people can go from there. We can definitely communicate by email if it's just around scheduling. So Rashida, did you have another comment?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to follow up on Jalon's idea, like a virtual tour of the museum. And if would that be possible to have it live during our next meeting? Maybe like a 5-minute tour so the public can see what's going on in there.
I will definitely, I'll ask. I just made a note of that. I know that because they're closed, things are a little bit, in storage and in transition. It might be easier for them to explain as they take you through, but I will ask them, and if that's an option and that's easier, then I'll mention that. But either way, I'll let you know. Kathy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious. I mean, I can always email Bob Dunbar over at Reve TV. I'm just wondering if something's been done, so that if they could share a link with us or something, say there has been a walkthrough during COVID. So if you'd like, I can email Bob Dunbar at Reve TV.
Thank you, Kathy. I can, it's not a problem for me to get in touch with Bob Dunbar. I think first I want to reach out to Bob Upton to see if he would rather have people come in person or have a video tour, whether that's Reve TV or someone's cell phone, and then go from there and let him decide what's best for them on their end. So I will follow up. Bob's very responsive, so you'll probably hear by next week about that. And in the meantime, If it's agreeable to the commission, I would like to respond to the person that initially submitted that 311 request, just to let this person know that two of us have been there and that the museum is very open and receptive and that this is an ongoing collaboration. I just want to, does anyone have a problem with that? Lynn?
Just a clarification, I understood part of the complaint to be that there were like artifacts that may have been offensive. I may be wrong. I don't.
The complaint was that the museum, no people of color worked there, and the museum was promoting white supremacy and institutional racism.
Okay, so I'm just concerned that, a response saying that we want to be inclusive is not responsive to the entirety of the concern. So unless your finding was that, it wasn't promoting white supremacy or whatever have you, I was just curious as to what the complaint was and how are we directly addressing it. It seems like we're addressing the inclusion part. I just wasn't sure.
I want to see if Shay heard and felt the same thing I did. We discussed the complaint specifically. We all agreed that although the intention is not to promote white supremacy and systems of oppression, we could see how, because the museum has not kept up to date, because there's a lack of staffing and it's all volunteer, we agree that that could be someone's experience of it. Shay, would you say that that was our conversation?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So I would be able to acknowledge that in the response.
I think, if I may.
But wait a minute, Dr. Garcia, we have Lynn and then Carew and then you.
Sure.
I just think because I don't know exactly what we're referring to, I don't know if it's a flag, a statute, a writing, I'm having a hard time acquiescing to a response that says, hey, this is okay, without seeing it myself or understanding what the concern is. Because I think it's very factual of what it is and how it's presented, frankly. So, I mean, I agree to responding. I just am not there with what we're responding to.
So I can respond to say that we acknowledge the complaint, we understand why this person is making this complaint. We're appreciative to receive this feedback, and that the museum is willing, receptive, and interested to update and to work on having the museum present itself both through volunteers there as well as the materials that are there in a way that does not feel that it is promoting white supremacy and systems of oppression. Or I can wait until everyone goes and just I can respond and let this person know that this is being looked into and that the History Museum is very receptive in working with us in moving forward. And then sort of after everyone goes, respond further. That's also fine. I just want to respond. I'm just sensitive to wanting to respond. Okay, so Carew, Rashid, and then Chief Bright. And then just keeping in mind, I want to hear from people, but also that we still have other topics. Go ahead, Carew.
Thank you. I appreciate Lynn asking that question. I also do have that question as well. I would love to know more specifically what specific histories and items or anything that make it feel like the museum is promoting white supremacy. And I would also, in the response, I would just, like looking into, we received the feedback and we're looking into it, because I would love to see the whole picture and what plan are we having and what conversation are we having, other than just, like collecting items that representing the community. I feel like it's deeper than that. That's how I feel.
Okay. Dr. Garcia, I remember you had actually waved your hand, so why don't you go?
Sure, I agree with Karu, and I also agree with Lynn. I think that yes, we all can go there and see what's in there. I'm not sure that our visit will give us a comprehensive understanding of what's going on in the museum. I think what needs to happen, yes, we can go and visit. That would be the first step. That's a positive step in the right direction. But ultimately, what needs to be done is, if we really want to do a job is that will dispel any doubts about the museum, we may say, yes, we went there, we paid a visit. But I think a more comprehensive work needs to be done in terms of maybe doing some, hiring someone I know, or maybe coming up with a rubric that when we do go and review the materials that are there, we may say somebody that there are people with expertise in bias and sensitivity issues that may go there and review the literature, books that are probably were written, I don't know how many years ago, by whom, I don't know. So that probably has some racial stereotyping and things like that that probably needs to go away. And that's a complete review. That's the way it's done usually, but we can certainly start with a visit and then do a more comprehensive review of what's going on that museum, and in terms of artifacts, books, literature, et cetera, et cetera. We have a different demographics in our city now, and what is in there might not reflect our demographics. The materials that are there might not be linguistically, culturally, racially, and ethnically normed for our population.
Thank you. Rashid?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I agree with Dr. Garcia, what he said, as well as Kuru and Lynn. In my opinion, we have to respond to that person just to make sure that his concerns have been heard and we are looking at. In my opinion, we should find out more, and if he can send us some examples to look at while we are waiting for these restrictions to be lifted, so we can all visit the museum. So I think we have to find out more from that specific person. And we, as we are having like those hearing sessions, why don't we invite that person to speak in those hearing sessions, and we could find out more from it or from her, I don't know, who has.
Thank you. We before I get to Chief Bright, we can definitely mention that the museum has been closed for a while. So the sense was that this visit may have been sometime in 2019. So I don't know how clearly the person remembers examples, but we can, of course, welcome that. Chief Bright?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Rashid raised my point, that I think an invite to this individual to listen to what prompted them to write the complaint, and maybe an invite to the museum also, and the commissioners can listen, and at least there'll be a dialogue. And again, some of these conversations, we might not all agree, they might not all be comfortable, but they should be had. Thank you.
Thank you. So then hearing this, it sounds that other than Shay and I, the rest of the commission would like to go visit the museum. We're going to make that arrangement. I can briefly follow up with the person who submitted the 311 request to say that the vice chair and I have been there. The rest of the commission is going. We acknowledge the request. We would like more specific information if possible, or even if this person would like to go back to the museum when one of the commissioners are there, or to attend one of our listening sessions so that we can hear more specifics. Is that correct? Is that what I just sort of heard from everyone, that we don't want to respond with too much specifics about the museum until all of you have had a chance to be there, but we do want to respond at some level to give some progress report and to see if we can invite more information. Yes, does that sound correct?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you. Shalon, before we close this topic.
Yeah, it's more of a general observation. I think on that mail, we might want to have something that just acknowledges things immediately and says, maybe we can come up with some type of service level. I don't know what the word is. We'll get back to you. We meet on a monthly basis. We'll get back to you soon, just because, I appreciate we need to respond to people, but we also need to get it right too. I think that's really important and address the key points. I agree. So I don't know where that fits in, but that should be easy to have.
So just to clarify, the request that we're talking about did not come through the HRC webpage. It came through the 311 system. Ruben happened to forward it to me as the HRC chairperson because the HRC was mentioned. I chose to, after meeting with Bob and Toby, chose to, as the chairperson, lead up some kind of initiating a response to the person. When someone contacts us through our webpage, the HRC webpage, like the email that you saw that came through after the listening session, when they contact us through our webpage, it gets emailed to all of us. And for the most part, as the chairperson, until we have an executive director, I respond to those, or Ruben and I decide who needs to respond. Does it need to go to the mayor's office, or what's the best course of action? I think at one point I had informed you all that you did not need to respond to those unless it specifically had to involve you, and then of course you'd be included. So I just wanted to clarify, this request about the History Museum came through the 311 system. It did not come through the HRC webpage. Okay. So would someone like to make a request a motion to table this topic? It's still an ongoing topic until all the commissioners have a chance to go visit the museum, as well as any other progress that unfolds if this person comes to one of our listening sessions.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, Chief Bright brought an excellent point, which is extending an invitation to the museum representative, whether it gotta be Bob Upton or maybe, I think, Ed Devo. They are both great people. I've met them. They are very inclusive, and they may have seen something, but it's unintentionally. And we just have to agree that we are all different. And the good thing about this group is we are willing to meet halfway and understand each other for the best of our city. So I think it will be a great idea to bring both parties. Because Bob Upton would be in a great position to speak of what's in the museum and give us like a background of that specific issue or whatever it could be, that wasn't welcome with the other party.
I think, I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood. Chief Bright, you were suggesting that we invite Bob Upton or some other representative to attend our monthly meeting. Is that, I think I missed that.
That's correct. And the person who forwarded the complaint to Revere 311. I make the motion that we invite them to our next monthly meeting.
Ruben, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I know that, you know, under our ordinance that we can be involved in this, but I don't know if the monthly meeting would be the place to do it. It seems to me that we would want to, if both parties were coming, it seems to me that that would be best done at a separate meeting outside of our monthly meeting, because that is more like a mediation or resolution meeting.
I think that's one option. I don't think there's anything wrong also with respectfully asking both of the parties to provide some information to the commission and to the commission members. It doesn't have to turn into a debate so much as just an opportunity to hear from the parties involved and take that information under advisement.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like we need to see who's willing to come. At the very least, have a representative from the History Museum be invited, as well as the person that submitted the 311 complaint. And we'll see if both parties would be interested in joining us, or just one party, or how this may unfold. Before we go on, Karu.
Sorry.
Oh, I think, yeah.
I just want to make sure if they don't feel comfortable coming, verbalizing it. I agree with Dr. Garcia. We should have a full evaluation, kind of look at the museum from an expert, kind of to build from that.
So who would do that and who would pay for it?
Madam Chair, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't know if the city has a department that deals with cultural affairs, a cultural affair department or something like that. It might have a budget that potentially could help out. I don't know that. That's something that probably we should investigate. I don't know if, Madam Chair, if you know of it, you know, about such a department. I don't know, but
okay.
This is certainly, you know, a positive step in the right direction. If you really want to, you know, check things out. That's yeah.
Okay. I'd like to just say, honestly, as the chairperson and having gone to the museum, I request each of you go there first before we make that recommendation. Because when Shay and I went, it really clarified things and will help to further this conversation. So I'd rather have each of you go before we decide to make any recommendation. I'm not saying we wouldn't make that recommendation, but I think we'll have more information to base any recommendation like that. Kathy, did you take your hand down, Kathy?
May I, you know, I just want to follow up on that though. Going there and paying a visit, that's important. There's no doubt about it. And I really want to, I've been leaving Revere, I mean, not leaving Revere, but working Revere for at least a decade or so. That's one of the places I always wanted to go. And I want to go there and really understand what's going on there. But, you know, sometimes during these tours and during these visits, it's very hard. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You go, you visit, you are not digging into any other materials, and we are not experts. So that's something that certainly we can follow up, but this is something that we really need to do.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, Dr. Garcia. I'm taking it one step at a
Sure.
time. We might have an ED in place in July who has the kind of background that could actually do this, and we don't even have to worry about finding money for it. So
Sure.
I don't disagree. I just think let's take it one step at a time. Kathy, it looks like you lowered your hand.
Yeah, just briefly, I agree with you. Basically said what I was going to say, Madam Chair, but I think what Chief Bryce is saying makes a good point. And I just want to say thank you to Carew for pointing out that I think this person who has this complaint should, if they could provide some information so we can take a look at it. But to Carew's point, if they're not comfortable in, coming in person to get us an explanation, whatever. Thanks.
Thank you. So I see hands and I'm sensitive. I'd like to hear from you, but it's 6:12 and we still have a lot to review. So how imperative is it that you feel you need to speak and add to this? Lynn lowered her hand. Shay, looks like you still need to speak.
It's just something small, but you mentioned money and how much it's gonna cost. What are you like? What were you talking about? I think I missed it, or I just didn't understand. But how does money play a role into this?
If we were to hire someone that is expertise in this to be able to go through the museum with an objective lens that is trained in this.
Oh, okay.
If we proceed and that was the case.
Oh, okay. It was just a clarification. Thank you.
Reverend?
Yeah, mine just very quickly. Thanks for everyone that they shared. This is all important that we're thinking about these things. I just want to go back to what's on the floor. I don't think we seconded, so I'd like to second what Chief Bright suggested, just so we can keep that on the floor and keep that moving. Just want to bring that up.
So,
Thank you.
So Rashid, you feel that you need to speak again? I'm only asking
If you don't
because.
mind, Madam Chair, all of these are great points. We just got to start with the easiest one, which is extending an invitation to both of them. If they don't feel comfortable, we could move it in a different way. It could be something simple. I don't like this. And the museum that are saying we are welcoming volunteers. You could be that person willing to volunteer and, have his ideas being applied in that specific museum. We just can't force that group of volunteers of doing certain things at this time. And also, we don't have the money for that yet. So the easiest way probably we'll start with that easiest solution. Then we can see how we're gonna proceed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Lynn?
I'm sorry, I apologize. I know time is ticking, but I just wanted to say, I don't know if an emphasis on the individual that made the complaint is, 100% necessary. I think as the Human Rights Commission, yes, it's objective, but it's also very subjective. Like we all represent a different part of the city. So I think, having everybody's input, maybe independent of the complaint, is a good thing as well. And
I'll raise my hand.
So Chief Bright, are you speaking now? I didn't know if you did that intentionally or not.
Yeah, I raised my hand, Madam
Yes.
Chair. Yes. Again, the idea behind inviting the person who issued the complaint is not to have an inquisition or attack this individual, but there were some pretty serious allegations in the complaint. They're pretty, I thought they got my attention. They're pretty serious. So, our job is to investigate these, to get the information. And I thought we wanted to invite people into our meetings to have these maybe uncomfortable conversations and to lay it out there on the table. And hopefully, again, we can come to a better understanding. I've been to the Revere Historical Museum. It's been a couple of years now. I know a little bit about the history of Revere. I'd like to know, what this person, what their complaint was. What specifically. So if they're not comfortable coming to the meeting, that's fine. Maybe they'd be more comfortable, speaking to you, Madam Chair, or someone else, or issuing a detailed, more detailed complaint. That's all. So I would call the question. Everyone has spoken on it unless someone else has something different. Thank you.
just so that I'm clear of the motion before we continue, is the motion that the topic is being tabled. In the meantime, both the person who issued the complaint as well as the representatives, probably Bob Upton, or who he decides, representatives from the Revere History Museum would be invited, if they felt comfortable, to attend our next monthly meeting, or it might be that conversations take place in another way with just me or with certain commission members or in another forum, but that the invitation is made, as well as the commission members who have not gone to the museum would go to the museum after I get you information from Bob Upton. Is that the motion that is on the table? It's a long one.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to add the tabling portion at the beginning of it, because we're really not tabling it. We are inviting them to the next monthly meeting. In the meantime, I don't know if we need, if you can schedule something with Bob to have the other commissioners pop into the museum, that'd be fantastic, but I don't know if that needs to be part of the motion.
Okay, so the motion is just to invite for the next meeting.
Correct.
And is anyone's, so Chief Bright makes the motion. Reverend?
And I
It was
second.
seconded by the Reverend. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Next is the community listening series.
Can we have a vote on that, Madam Chair? I don't know if
okay.
everyone's in agreement.
Thank you, Chief Bright, sorry. All in favor, you can raise your hand. Okay, so all in favor, thank you. And I will, not part of the motion, but I will follow up about how you can visit the museum. Next is the community listening series. The first meeting was this past Tuesday night, and we have 2 more scheduled. This Saturday, March 13th at 10, and then Wednesday, March 24th at 6 o'clock. We had sent out the, Ruben, can you share the page, the Engage page? So you had seen this, we emailed this to you. This is the web page that was created for people to participate and give input. Right now, we only have, if you scroll down, Ruben, we only got these few responses here about what areas of human rights you feel are important. So this is for people to provide written input. And then on the right sidebar, you can see if they click there, that's how they would register to come and speak and be part of the Zoom meeting. And so what we learned from the other night is that no one registered to speak, although it seemed like some people did RSVP and say that they were planning to view on Facebook. So one issue we have is how to get the word out better so that people will register to speak, as well as to get more feedback on that written survey. As well as Shay had some great ideas to involve the youth, and I'm curious to know if any of the members have any ideas. It overall was positive in the sense that those of us that were there, Shay, Carew, and Dr. Garcia and myself, did have a chance to share stories of our background and how we got involved with the HRC. And we did receive a submission from one person who really admired that courage and vulnerability. That person also did make another comment for us to be careful of using the phrase understandable racism, which was more I believe not understandable racism, which racism is never understandable, but that the human reactions that come from fear and anger can be understandable after an attack like the marathon bombing, but not that we would ever call racism understandable. So there were people watching, even though no one presented. I'm happy to hear if anyone has any other ideas to get the word out after Shay shares her thoughts. And I'm also curious to know who can attend the next 2 meetings. And maybe we can split it up so that you don't have to attend both, but we can have a few, at least 3 or 4 of us at each one. Shay, did you want to?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, so like what Madam Chair Janine said, that I did propose having the youth be involved in this, since this is what this is a very good way to reach out to those in political power, and like even to us, to like what can we do from our end to help the youth be more to help the youth's voices be more vocal in and represented in our local government. And it's something that's already been done. It's just that like now that there's like finally a place where they can do it, and I think it's a good idea. Like I know a lot of youth-led organizations around Revere, and some of them I am a part of. So that's why I proposed the idea, only because like as an advocate for youth, I think this is a very good way to do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Shay. And just being mindful of time, and we do have an important discussion about Women's History Month and International Women's Day that we need to make time for. So I want to open it up to you if you have any ideas, if you can simply be mindful of, how much you're speaking. Kathy?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Very quickly, I didn't know if this was something that the city did, or if they could in the future maybe post on their social media sites so that people would maybe register, see that it's going on, putting it in their calendars, and maybe tune in.
I believe we did. I believe all that was done. Ruben, are you there? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, we sent out an email to our communications channel and text messages. That's about 2,000 messages that went out. And we put it on the city social media channels as well. So I would definitely, and we spoke about it at the weekly community resource network meeting as well. I think that it happened to be on election day was bad timing on our part, and no one thought about that until it was too late. That might have had some impact on turnout, people's willingness to be there. But we're certainly willing to do a little more organizing and talk with some of those folks and see if we can generate a little more turnout for the next 2 in the series.
Thank you.
Other than I would say if any of you are connected with communities, that there's a way that you could get the word out, the same way that Shay is doing it with the youth, that would be greatly appreciated. Anyone else?
I was wondering if we could create a Twitter account for the commissioners. We could potentially tweet the information out. Have social networking, and those can be pushed up, and I'm sure that people will get the word out.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Ruben, this is sort of your area. I'm not.
I absolutely love the idea. You would just need to come up with a process, sort of who's managing it. Obviously, that'll be a lot easier when there's a director, and just sort of what information is going on it. But I think that's a terrific idea. We can also post on the website the feed from the Twitter site, so there's a little more dynamic content on the website as well.
So actually on that count, there's this relates to a topic that's further down 7B. the HRC communication system with the public. Since we're talking about this, Ruben, can you speak to what you had asked me about with sending texts out to the public?
Sure. So the city has an email and text message system called Public Input. If any of you have been on the city's COVID page, you'll see that there's an English and Spanish sign up to receive emails and text messages. We can create a Human Rights Commission specific sign up on a page that will allow you to create your own list. And then when you have a communication, whether it's just about a meeting or about some other matter, that you'll be able to send emails and text messages on that. That currently is being managed, combination of me and the mayor's office. But it's a powerful tool, and I wouldn't expect that you're going to get thousands of signups initially, but it's a good way to stay in touch with people who really are interested in this topic.
So it sounds like that right now, Ruben and the mayor's office are managing that. So they would be sort of helping us out until an executive director is in place and could take that on. So maybe we could begin with that and add the Twitter, as Dr. Garcia had mentioned, add the Twitter account in sort of as we go along, and maybe when we have more help on board, like an executive director, and I know I'm jumping ahead, but this just happens to be relevant. Would anyone like to make a motion for us to adopt this kind of email text system to communicate HRC events or notices? So then we do not want to have an email or text system to communicate with the public?
I think we should do it. I don't know.
I'll second that motion.
So,
Madam Chair, I just didn't understand the process exactly, but I highly support what Dr. Garcia said about the Twitter page. I personally don't use Twitter much, but I would add a Facebook page. The other thing, it's very, very important to have like a small budget to work with, so we could promote those events on Facebook. Can put like just $50, $100. I'm willing to donate some money if we are going to promote certain events like this, because I didn't like it, to be honest with you. I had some trouble logging into the Zoom in the last hearing session. We didn't see much concerns from the people, and we would like people to step up and help us, because we are just volunteering in this position, and they have to voice their concerns in order for us to do a better job. And the other thing that I would recommend, if there are like some small grants to apply for, just like a $500, $600, it's gonna help us for the whole year, or to promote those kinds of events on Facebook or on Twitter. But I didn't understand the part of the texting message. Is that something that we will be sending text messages to people, or that's something that we will be receiving? I just didn't understand that.
okay. So thank you, Rashid. And when we have an ED, part of that job description is to, write grants and to help us to get more money to organize fundraisers. My understanding is that the city has a system that they send out emails and texts, or emails and or texts, if someone signs up for it. So if someone signed up for the HRC public communication system, then that person or those people that were on that list, if we said, oh, listening session, don't forget listening session Saturday at 10, or monthly meeting, or whatever it might be, the city would send that out by email and or text. So the question is, do we feel it would be helpful to have a system like that for HRC related events? And I'm not a social media person, so my understanding is that we would also, when it's time to, whether it's sooner or later, to bring in Dr. Garcia's idea of including Twitter within that. And I'm not sure, Ruben, I'm not sure, like, right now it's only email and text and, or,
The communication system is an email text system, but maybe this is a decision that makes sense to have the executive director make. And in the short term, having just a Facebook page or a Twitter feed is an easy way to keep in touch with people. But maybe all of this is something to table until you have an ED. And the city can continue to put out, our publicity, using our publicity channels, information about HRC events until then.
that sounds great to me. I don't know, does that feel like that would be a more appropriate motion to table this whole communication topic until we have an ED?
I think so. I think Ruben makes an excellent point. I think those that are sensitive issues there, especially involving texting, email. The question we have is that are the people who we are trying to reach, are they willing to really accept or receive any texting and stuff like that? Yes, we can ask them, but I think we should table it and then go with methodology, things that are probably easier, easiest to do rather than
So Dr. Garcia, will you make that motion to table the topic of an HRC public communication system?
I do make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And so back to the, so that we can move on, if you have any other ideas and thoughts about how to get the word out other than within your own channels and communities about the listening sessions, just please, you can pass them along to me and Ruben. And in the meantime, can you let me know, raise your hand, who could attend this Saturday at 10 o'clock?
May I ask a clarifying question? So those of us who have already done one or attended one or participated in one, is the idea of having new people that have not done that yet, or how? I just want to clarify that.
No, that's a great question. I think everyone is always welcome. You can come to more than one, but I also think it's nice to sort of spread the commission, except for maybe the two chiefs that have other city events that you might do, and we probably already have enough of a white representation. If that's, unless of course you want to come, you're more than welcome to come. But I'd like to have as many that can come, especially if you haven't come, at least come once. But if you have come and you're drawn to come again, it's great to have your presence and your voice. So since Kuru and Dr. Garcia have already come, otherwise, who else could attend this Saturday at 10?
Could I just ask a clarification? I thought it was Saturday the 13th.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay.
Not this Saturday. Thank you so much. Saturday, the 13th at 10.
All right. I can go to that one. I wouldn't have been able to come this Saturday. Okay.
Anybody
What's,
else?
the other date, Madam Chair?
Excuse me?
What is the other date?
The other date is
Beside
either
the 13th.
Saturday, the 13th at 10 or Wednesday, the 24th at 6. So someone else speak up if you can do one or the other.
I can do the 26th.
The 24th. It's
4th, sorry. Yes, thank you.
I intend to be at both.
Kathy, was that you, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Reverend?
I do the 24th.
Okay. Anybody else for the 13th? Rashid, are you available for either or both?
To be
Or
honest
Lynn?
with you, I'm running the IT classes in both days, but
Okay,
if I have to, I could take, I could volunteer for the 24th, but I'm
okay,
running those IT classes in both of them, to be honest with you.
I
I do
understand.
my best to attend the 24th.
I understand you have other commitments. Lynn?
Same with me. I will be at work on March 13th. So I can do the 24th at 6.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a fair amount of people that could come on Wednesday, the 24th. So if anybody else would like to join me and Kathy on Saturday, the 13th, that would be great. So Dr. Garcia, you had asked if you and Carew felt like you were able to come to a second one. It sounds like we could use you at the Saturday one more so than the 24th, but at least we have some people at each. Yes, Dr. Garcia?
Okay, I will do it.
Well, see how, you can, I know that you and Crew have already been doing quite a bit. So just see how you feel. And otherwise, Kathy and I will be there and sort of, hold things down.
Glad to help out. No problem.
So, okay. So lastly, there was a subcommittee meeting of the cultural holidays and celebrations on February 18th, and I had sent the minutes out with the agenda. Are there any questions, or is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Can I make the motion if it's my subcommittee? Because I'll make the motion to approve the minutes if that's all right.
I don't know the answer to that.
I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And now, Kathy, would you like to give a report from that subcommittee?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. We had, it's difficult, everyone's so busy. We had many members of the subcommittee join, and those who couldn't were unable to be there for varying commitments. But we had a meeting. It was Dr. Garcia, the chair of the HRC, Janine Grillo-Mara, Carew Pitch, and Ruben Cantor was there from the city, and myself. We really concentrated on March because March is Women's Month, and we really were concentrating on International Women's Day, which is March 8th, because we wanted to work with the city to see if we could get a banner for City Hall. So Chair Mara was very gracious and shared her screen with the subcommittee members. We looked at 2 different versions of a banner and what wording would look like. I actually did share that with Carew, and she gave me her thoughts on it. And we do have I believe a couple of drafts on that, right? So before we start that conversation, I will just say, because I know that'll be kind of a longer conversation. I did say at the end of the meeting that this is probably a subcommittee that's probably going to meet more frequently, just because we have to kind of get up once we get everything kind of set for the various months. I think we won't have to, but considering we only meet once a month, we probably don't want to continue to keep trying to catch up on things that are coming up. So I apologize. I have not had a minute to email anyone, but I did say in the minutes that, if the 3rd Thursday of the month would continue to work for everyone, that would really be helpful. And then I could just send out, we could schedule that, and I could work with Ruben on that. So thank you. And I didn't know if there's anything else that anyone else wanted to add, or if Chair Mara, you just wanted to show some banners.
So the only thing I wanted to add is when I'm going to share the same banner with 2 different language options. And the reason there's 2 different language options is because this year, our meeting is today, March 4th. So March has already started. And so we couldn't really put up something for Women's History Month because we had to wait to get approval from the commission. So we focused on Women's International Day, which is March 8th. However, we want to be cost effective in terms of thinking of using this over and over for the city so that the city is not creating a new banner every year. So one of the banners has, we're celebrating International Women's Day, which limits it to one day, but could be up a longer period. The other banner celebrates Women's History Month. Or we could come up with different language like Reve celebrates woman during the month of March, or something that's a little more universal. So I'll show you just give me a moment to.
If you'd like, I can do it.
What?
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, so this is the one, let me show you first. This is the one that you saw that I sent by email. So this is City of Revere celebrates International Women's Day, which is one day in March. This year it's the 8th, but the day changes. We could use this over and over. We could keep it up more than a day. The other one is the same banner, but it says City of Revere celebrates Women's History Month. Which we could put up for Monday. If it's approved, it could stay up the rest of the month and be used going forward for the whole month of March. Or I don't know if somebody has different languaging that they would like to see. So people can now give input to which of those, first of all, is the illustration, if the illustration is acceptable, then it's just a matter of the languaging.
I just want to also say thank you to Jackie with the
Oh, yes,
city
thank you.
for helping design those. She was really wonderful with the quick turnaround.
Yes.
I like the idea of, I think International Women's Day is really important, but I think we should, be celebrating women's history in general. So, I mean, my vote would be for Women's History Month, but I will support whatever the majority of the committee wants.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for reminding us about Jackie. Rashid?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just want to say that the design is great. Whatever you decide, it's fine with me, whether it's Women's Day or Women's Month. It's fine both. I just want to raise a concern about the translation. It's great to translate it to many other languages, but the problem, we don't want to make anybody feel that they are marginalized. And I'm speaking out of experience. I've been part of the Revere emergency response team since the coronavirus pandemic started. We had a great network, which is a Spanish network. They have been doing an outstanding job. It's a group of volunteers, but there are Latinos. They have been reaching out to the Spanish community out there. And we had another group, which is the Portuguese network, and they have been very active, and they are doing the translation. So I think we should not do any translation, except if other communities want to volunteer, because we had a concern from the Italian community. We were approving flyers in Arabic, Spanish, and Portuguese, and one day one person said, why not translating it to the Italian language? And I think it's a valid point. So we should leave it to those communities. If you want to translate it to Arabic, you are more than welcome to translate it. But we shouldn't be adopting any of those. I mean, that's my opinion in this.
Okay. Thank you. Karu?
I like the graphic design. Thanks to Jackie, yes. And I think the Women's History Month and then also Women's Day, it has its own purpose, even though it's happening in the same month, it has its own history. That's how I feel.
So do you have a solution of how to incorporate both without the banner being so busy?
Not at the moment.
So that was the reason I had the idea of, Revere celebrates women, or something that's more universal. During March, Revere celebrates all women. Or I was trying to capture both the history and the International Women's Day. That may not be the best language, but that was my thought process of how to maybe even use different language. Garcia, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I wanted to say a few things. First of all, whoever created this did an amazing job. You have a group of diverse women there. It's well done. I just want to thank you for that. I think both, I agree with, Karu. I don't really have a good solution to this. Both, are represent women. Part of me says, Women International Day, it's well known around the world. Let's remember that we always have to go back to the history and what's the trend, what's going on right now in many countries where women, not just the countries, but here too in the US, where women are mistreated. There's so many things that they do, but they work goes unrecognized. There are so many things that are happening in other countries where women have no rights whatsoever to basic things like education, things like that. So part of me says, and we have a lot of Latino women, a lot of, Jewish women. We have a lot of Arabic, women. We have a lot of Brazilian women. We have all those that have come to those countries, from those countries to the US. And, it's kind of hard because both titles are good unless we say happy international, and then slash, I just don't know because I have to think about it. I have to think a little bit about it. But I think both serve a purpose, and whatever we do.
And I think before I turn it to Kathy, I'm thinking maybe if the majority feels both messages are important, maybe I just bring it back to Jackie. This is her expertise, and she might be able to find a way to work both in without it looking too busy. But Kathy?
And I'm being total Debbie Downer now, just reminding everyone that we do have to make this decision tonight because we are in the month. But, Chair Mara, I was thinking about kind of what you were saying in a saying, and I just thought about, like, you could even say Revere celebrates its strong women, and we could do something like that. And it kind of encompasses all of it because there isn't a woman that's lived or is alive that isn't strong. So, I mean, that would be a suggestion.
Thank you, Kathy. Rashid?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think if we put like City of Revere celebrates International Women's Day and keep it there for a month, or put City of Revere celebrates International Women's Month and keep it for a day, it will serve the same purpose. I think we should just move in and make a decision, as Kathy said tonight, so we could get it out there as soon as possible.
Does anyone have any language that basically reflects both of those in a sort of unconventional way?
I like Kathy's idea with like City Revere celebrates strong women. because for the same reason, like it encompasses the past women that came before us, it encompasses the women of now, and even encompasses the women of the future. Like no matter where in history, you're going to have a strong woman, and every woman is a strong woman. So I feel like that's conventional for like everything, because it's not, you're acknowledging the past and you're acknowledging the people of the present. So I just think that's a good idea.
Thank you. My only concern, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, is who is making the decision of whether or not a woman is strong?
I was going to say the same thing. And Kathy, that's a very good title. But strong in the eye of whom? Who's making that decision? So you just nail it. I think
we should. All women, Revere celebrates all women would be, that resonates better than strong woman, because it's more inclusive and universal.
Sure.
Jalon, you had your hand up. Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you. City of Revere celebrates all women, past, present, and future.
That's sounding good.
I like it a lot. Because you could do it right at the bottom, like celebrates women, and then on the bottom, like past, present, future. That's great.
All woman is like all, that's international, and past, present, future, it sort of gets the whole history thing. Oh, it's Carew, you lowered your hand. I'm getting the sense that maybe you like that. So Revere celebrates all women, past, present, and future. Would someone like to make, does anyone have any other comments before we make a motion to pass this?
Just to be the devil's advocate, Madam Chair, is all necessary? We're just celebrating women. That would include all.
It does. I guess I'm thinking sometimes putting in the obvious gives it a little more power, but I'm open to the majority of using all or not as an adjective.
Is there a woman commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion, if anyone wants to correct it, that's fine. But I like the idea of Revere celebrates women, and then past, present, future, and future.
I'll second.
Chief, can I just add a few things here? So just in addition, I kind of, I see exactly where you're going. I think just the word women does it. There's no doubt about it. But I think that word all, it's really emphasizing that we are not leaving anybody out. So from a grammar perspective, probably we should leave all aside. We don't have to, but in this particular situation, there's a lot of enthusiasm. We're really saying we want to be inclusive. It needs to be everybody, all. It really emphasizes a little bit. It gives a little bit, different tone. Just my suggestion.
So I will amend my motion to say that Revere celebrates all women, past, present, and future.
I'm agreeable also. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
All in favor? Okay. I suggest if you have any new topics and other business you'd like for the next meeting, that you can email me as the chairperson, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?